sky so far, but I can't lose it.
Sim racers from around the globe, honouring a revolutionary era of open-wheel racing. With a beast not easily tamed, roaring around legendary circuits at breakneck speed. When engineers and drivers push boundaries, sometimes too far. When heroes muscled roaring beasts wheel to wheel around the hallowed ground. A time when the only driver aids were his 2 feet, the perfect combination of man, machine, and speed. Experience the competition and the glory of early 80s IndyCar action. The Lionheart Retro Series presented by Next Level Racing starts now. As the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series winds to a close, the focus is not on the championship fight. Instead, it is on the new kid on the block as Sean Campbell has roared to HyperX victory lane for 3 wins in a row. He's not just done it on the road courses, he's done it on the ovals, but as we head to the tricky Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, the reality is, it is anyone's game as survival will be paramount here tonight. This is the Gomez Sim Industries Grand Prix of Montreal, presented by SimRace247.com. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpotTV and coverage for your 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. My name is Arjuna Kenkipati, joined alongside in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth by the one and only DJ Clark, and let's dive straight into our next level pre-race show because DJ, we have just 4 races left to go as we look at a next level racing schedule. It's a road course, it's an oval, it's a road course, it's an oval, but all 4 of these next tracks are as different as you can find.
Yeah, they really and truly are. From the tight and twisting confines here at Montreal, we then go to the short oval that is Gateway, and then to the U.S. National Park of Speed in Road America, and then finish things off on the Super Speedway 2-mile flat-out run pack race that will be Auto Club Arjuna. These are 4 of the races I have been looking forward to the most this entire season.
And of course, double points at the very final round of the championship still means there's plenty left to play for as we wind into December. We started at the beginning of March, and what a long journey it has been for the drivers and for us as well. DJ and myself just talking about how time has flown over the course of this year. Here's a look at your next level racing driver standings though. It is Mike Rasmas that is starting to build up a bit of an advantage, and it is really only the threat of double points that lurks over his shoulders as he now leads David Sirard by closing on 100 points. Matt Taylor has dropped to 3rd with Michael O'Brien in 4th position. David Rodriguez has been quietly working his way up into 5th position. But the reality is, DJ, as we work our way to the close, it's really the fight for 2nd that intrigues rather than the fight for 1st.
Yeah, it certainly is. That fight a little bit farther down there for 3rd. Very close running with Matt Taylor and Michael O'Brien. And don't count out Fuel Saver extraordinaire David Rodriguez, or even Ricky Harden maybe be able to poke his nose up in there as well. It's really up for anybody's game.
I mean, even Tutler Graf would suggest that we should throw his name forward. It's very much had a strong last couple of months. Here's a look at the HyperX team standings, and it's really closed up at the front. Graphics, LC Motorsports, and MadWorks Motorsports have been the class of the field, and now it is just 27 points that splits them as we run here on the Ile Notre Dame. Behind them, Raven Lavoie Motorsports sitting in a bit of no man's land in 3rd. RSR by Buttkicker have some separation to Raven Motorsports Silver and 4D Sim Racing, but of course the focus will be on the 2 sets of 3 at the front that will continue to battle, and very much propped up by those at the front of the driver standings. A look at your Buttkicker rookie standings though, and after a partial campaign at the end of 2021, David Rodriguez came into this year with experience, at least relative to the rest of the field. He has used that as well as his natural talent to parlay that into a healthy lead at the front of your Buttkicker rookie standings, DJ.
Yes, he has, and it's a very, very healthy gap there up at the top. Again, Luke Daniels, Rodrigo Munoz, Jim Herrick in a very, very close battle there for 2nd. Don't count out Marius Valiocas out of that as well, or Luis Gonzalez Nunez, who is riding high after a couple of good rounds for him.
Even in the Lionheart Speedway Series, Luis Gonzalez Nunez has suddenly inserted himself into the championship picture, so he is very much starting to feel his own momentum as we turn our attention to the Gomez Sim Industry Series details in Season 6 of this Lionheart Retro Series. It's the 9th year of the Lionheart Racing Series. We campaign a car designed to tame road courses around the world, but we throw it around the oval, and we always have some fun with the Bisply tires and the Lotus 79 ground effect machine. It's a custom fixed setup built by RaceSpot's own Andrew Kinsella, so drivers just have their 2 hands and their 2 feet to try and get the most out of the car as they fight for their share of just over $7,000 in cash and prizes, with our champion walking away with a next level racing GT track cockpit as well as a Moser Racing direct drive wheelbase and Formula steering rim. We talked about the fact that there is still one more of our Triple Crowns left to play as we get set to crown not just a new defending series champion, but a new team champions as well, with Aaron Morgan going Part-time in 2022 and Avatar Auto Racing splintering up with still 2 of their drivers fighting now with Madworks Motorsports. Here's a look at your Moser Racing event details as we return to the circuit Gilles Villeneuve for just the first time since Season 2. And with the way this car will handle the curbs and the way the aerodynamics play itself out, of course, making sure you make the most from the curbs where you can will be crucial to success. And it's really been a race dominated by those at the front. Only one previous lead change in 2 previous races. It came in Season 2 when Alex Saunders led for 44 laps before Sage Karam with the undercut was able to take the lead and the victory, the margin of victory, just a second there. But the reality is there's no expectations going into this one, DJ, because these drivers head to a track with this combination they have very little experience in.
Yeah, very, very little experience here, Arjuna, and I'm glad that you brought up the curbing around this speedway. Now, for the most part around this track, it's pretty flat, and it's not going to affect that ground effect too much, but there are plenty of curbs specifically coming through turns 2 and 3 and 6 and 7 that you've really got to watch out for. They're a little bit raised up, and it's all about drivers knowing which curbs they can take and which curbs they've got to avoid a little bit. That's going to be the key to success around here. The other thing to keep in mind is patience. Remember, this is a temporary circuit. This is not a full-time road course, and so as such, the walls are very, very close, and if you try to get a little too aggressive, you're going to find yourself in those walls pretty quickly.
We take a look up above here at this man-made island. That's the primary passing opportunity at the hairpin if you're really brave. Of course, turn 1 as well. Chicanes, you don't really want to be trying the moves, but the reality is we will definitely see some moves being attempted. Qualifying underway, 10 minutes thrown onto the clock. Drivers get 4 attempts and the track to themselves as we watch the championship leader, Mike Rasmus, slide the rear end as he gets onto the power, down out of the hairpin on the long run down this back straightaway and into the crucial chicane, where if you get it wrong, the Wall of Champions is ready to greet you on the outside. We'll get a handful of cars across the line to get their first lap times done, and with bias ply tires able to go a full race distance, qualifying times will just drop as the fuel burns off. So round 128 is our first lap time as Matt Taylor goes first until he is pipped by Mike Rasmus. The question really is, where is Sean Campbell and what's he going to throw at us onto the board?
Exactly, and there, one of the hometown heroes, Canadian David Sirois, is going to jump his way up to the top of the charts. Sirois looked very quick in qualifying. I'm slightly surprised to see Rasmus up at the top of the charts. He wasn't necessarily as fast as I thought he was going to be, but now Michael O'Brien also able to get up in there, and another hometown hero there of Alex Goyan able to get his way up into the top 4.
Sean Campbell only 11th on lap number 1. That is definitely not where he would have expected to be. There is the Canadian David Sirois sweeping his way out of the opening sector and running his way towards the hairpin. This is one of the DRS zones in the real world, but we don't really need those artificial aids to put on great racing with these cars. Look at how he straddles the curb on the inside. Now, there are certain curbs that are flat. You noticed on the outside, Guyon able to take full advantage of, David Sirois in the Raven Lavoie Motorsports machine, able to take full advantage of that, and getting onto the power here, so important. And look how much track they use as well, DJ.
Yeah, a lot of track there coming out of the hairpin. That is really one of the keys to success. It's not a normal hairpin in the way that it runs because it widens out. Indeed, it's the widest part of the track. So you really want to get on the power a lot earlier than you normally think you would. As there we watch a big clobber of the curbs coming through that Quebec chicane. You've got to be careful. If you get just an inch or two off to the side, it'll throw you off.
No improvement on lap 2 for David Sirois, but as Sean Campbell slides his way all the way to the Wall of Champions, trending on an improvement, it's a 27.6, 3/10 quicker than the rest of the field. It's Campbell once more on top.
And really to the surprise of nobody, and look at that big gap there, 0.3 of a second. When we were looking at practice times, we were all saying that it was very, very close. Campbell, though, proving that all wrong and jumping right up to the top of the board.
So remember, in the 3 races Sean Campbell has competed in since joining the Lionheart Retro Series, he has 1 pole position and 3 victories. remarkable, and he seems to have figured it out on the ovals as well, which is a scary proposition for those thinking about 2023 and returning for a fight at the championship. On board with Michael O'Brien, of course, grabbed his first victory at the Hungaroring. It was a long time coming, a number of second place finishes, but now deep into the hairpin on his penultimate lap, he will build, I think now, just for that final flying attempt.
I think that's it. Maybe a little bit of weaving there. We watch Sirois now coming down the back straightaway, tracking relatively well. Some personal best times as Matt Taylor's going to jump up to P2.
So now we wait for Sirois, but I can tell you Sean Campbell seems to have found even more speed. Here comes the hometown hero. 27-7. Rodriguez will go to fourth, but Sirois will hold third, with Taylor now half a tenth away from Campbell. But what does the RSR by butt kicker 26 have in store for us? It's 27-463. He chops another tenth and a half away. He restores a 2/10 buffer to those behind.
And that is going to be crucial here for Sean Campbell, just continuing to work his way and get better and better lap times here as that fuel burns away out on track. Oh, and that's going to be a spin for Taylor. He's not going to do any better.
Yep, well now we know at least where one of our cars will punch their lap time in, at least relative to the rest of the field. David Rodriguez has also bailed from qualifying. We check in with Sirois. Runs his way up to the wall and now to the hairpin. Getting onto the anchors so crucial now. Can't afford to lock up as late as you dare. It is tidy on the entry. Sirois sweeps out wide, tentative on the power. And now it's the crucial run down the back straight.
And I've got to say here, Arjuna, he hasn't set personal best times in Sector 1 and Sector 2, so this may be a little bit off here for Sirois, but if he's able to get a good run through that final chicane, it could be the saving grace of his lap.
He bails immediately. It is pit lane practice time for David Sirois. Next up, O'Brien. Will the 45 offer a surprise? Through the chicane he'll go. 127.978, his previous best. He is half a second off pole position. That is not something you expect to say about O'Brien at a road course. And with a 27.384, he grabs pole. But here comes Sean Campbell, who can't do anything about it.
Oh my goodness gracious, upset there as we now see Luke Daniels crossing over the line. Looks like that's not going to be an improvement there. He's going to stay in 10th place, but Michael O'Brien, an amazing time. The Australian coming to show respect here in Canada.
Incredible. It will be the fourth pole position of the year for Michael O'Brien if it holds as is, and with just a handful of cars left on track, including Hugo Gallus, I don't think we're in for any shock. So with 90 seconds left in qualifying, take a snapshot of your top 10. It's basically locked on to start like that. The top two, the front row, will be split by just under a tenth of a second. And can Michael O'Brien be the one to spoil the party for the Sean Campbell Express?
Let's see here if he's able to. He's going to bring that down through the corners. Good lines coming off of the curbs. May have been a little bit more aggressive if he wanted to, but let's see what the run to the line here is, Arjuna.
It will be a marginal improvement for Gallus, who will jump up 2 positions to 17th. Slightly smaller field than we've become accustomed to in this campaign. We are down to 23 cars who will be running, and with that, qualifying is indeed done and dusted. I mean, DJ, excitement once more, and that's before we even put all the cars on the track at the very same time.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be a very, very interesting run here for all of these drivers. I am very excited to see what they are able to do.
Prediction time. O'Brien, Campbell, Taylor, Sirois. Anyone in the top 4 is game for the victory here, if you ask me.
I have to agree with you. I'm going to go with the hometown favorite. I was talking about him with you a little bit before the broadcast. David Sirois, that's who I've got my eye on here today.
I think O'Brien. I think it is Michael O'Brien that will spoil the party for Sean Campbell. I think the shocking thing is that both of us are in agreement that Sean Campbell's 100% streak will come to an end here today. He is not infallible. We have seen his domination in the Precision Racing League. What will he do here, though, starting on the outside of the front row? We're ready to go with 4 races left in this 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. Let's run you down through your butt kicker starting grid for the Gomez Sim Industries Grand Prix of Montreal, presented presented by SimRace247.com. It is Michael O'Brien that is once again at the front of the field and will lead us to the green. It is the 10th time in his 32nd start that he will bring us to the green. Sean Campbell alongside with Matt Taylor and David Siwa on row number 2. David Rodriguez and the championship leader Mike Rasmus share row number 6, while behind them from 7th will roll Alex Guyon, Tyler Groff to his right-hand side, Chris Fowler, Luke Daniels bookend the top 10. Gabe Wood, Chris Reagan, 11th and 12th positions, with Mark Cohn hoping it's not unlucky number 13 in the Avatar Order Racing with Graphics LC number 39. Jim Herrick, our first Triple Crown winner at Pocono, is in 14th with Rodrigo Munoz and Danny Roberts behind. Hugo Gallis and Craig Forsyth share row number 9 with Trevor Malone and Ricky Harding, two of the final cars with lap times on the board, 19th and 20th. Paul Jenkins, Luis Gonzalez, Nunez, and Chris Lanini round out the field of 23 that are getting ready to go. Short formation laps, so not much time to put any temperature into the tires. It's going to be important to make sure that you are steady on the run down into turn number 1 here, DJ.
Yes, it is. And the one good news for the drivers, though, is even with the short formation lap, it is 105 degrees Fahrenheit out on track right now. So that means these tires are going to come up to temperature relatively quickly for these bias ply tires. There you can see about 8 miles an hour worth of wind. That could be something that we talk about here. Not a lot. You do get quite a lot of wind, a lot of crosswind coming across the rowing lake here.
It's going to be an interesting one, that is for sure, especially when it comes to tires. We say bias ply tires are designed to go the full race distance, but we've increasingly seen over the course of this year that has not always been the case. Couple of onboard cameras to quickly walk you through, with Chris Fowler carrying Next Level Racing over his shoulder. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com. And Matt Taylor rides with HyperX. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game. Quick chat on strategy though. It's a 47-lap race with 2 pit stops expected, DJ, and a big fuel window.
Yeah, big fuel window. That means we're going to see plenty of drivers here opting to take different opportunity for strategies.
Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the start of the Gomez Sim Industries Grand Prix of Montreal, presented by SimRace247. For the 10th time in his career, Michael O'Brien leads us into turn number 1. Sean Campbell already has lost second as Matt Taylor works his way forward. It's Madworks Motorsports 1 and 2 as they run out of the opening run of corners. Behind them, cars jockeying for position, but all 23 cars have started this race safely and single file themselves out.
Yes, here they go. Looks like a pretty good lead up at the front of the field there for O'Brien, getting a little bit of pressure from behind from Taylor. A couple of moves there further back in the field. That's a little bit of side-by-side. I think that's Reagan and Luke Daniels, but everybody through the first 2 sets of chicanes nice and easy.
And now we've got Campbell trying to get back up to second, throwing the look to the inside of Taylor, and will get it done, and maybe allowing Michael O'Brien the opportunity to break the toe. He's 9/10 clear as they run into the braking zone of the hairpin for the very first time. Will anyone throw a lunge to the inside? Breakaway for the top 6. Sees Mike Rasmus and David Rodriguez fight side by side. Tyler Groff will lose a whole bunch of positions, but you can visibly see the breakaway forming at the front of the field.
Yeah, that was O'Brien just able to get the power down off of the corner like we talked about, and that is going to give him an 0.8 of a second advantage. Meanwhile, Campbell, Taylor, and Siwa, they are all going to be running in very, very close proximity. The crucial number to keep in mind here, Arjuna, 1 second. If you're able to get out of 1 second, that is enough to pull away from the draft.
And the cars will funnel through that final chicane. Top 6 split now by 2.2, then 1.6 back to Alex Guyon, and then it's basically a drafting train all the way through the field. O'Brien only 7/10 clear, has been unable to break the toe just yet. Matt Taylor now feels the pressure from David Siwa. It's O'Brien, Campbell, Taylor, Siwa, Rodriguez, and Rasmus, those 6 cars that are trying to break away. It's a 20-lap fuel window in a 47-lap race, so you are guaranteed and obligated to make the 2 stops. But like we were mentioning at the very start of the race, you can play around quite significantly, and we mentioned it during our Moser Racing event details. DJ, there has never been an on-track pass for the lead. The only time we've seen a switch around, it happened down on pit lane.
Yes, it did, and I think here that we could see a little bit of that playing true here today as well, but do remember that they've had a little bit of tire changes, a little bit of physics changes here in these cars to go along with the visual updates that just came in, those tires and physics changes coming in last year. So definitely some changes since we first visited this track. We may see a little bit more raciness, Arjuna, but I think this is all really going to come down to pit stops, and my money is going to be on these drivers absolutely running the tanks dry. Remember, these cars get faster, lighter, and better when they're on a light fuel load.
And we should talk about pit entry. We saw a couple of cars try it during practice, but it is a very concerning... Whoa! Oh, my days! Check up through the final chicane. Now, we have seen safety cars. Chris Fowler goes for a further ride after the initial bump that he took. I'm not sure exactly why the safety car did not get thrown there and triggered by iRacing for what was the definition of a track blocker. I think it started with Alex Guyon.
I think it did as well. One of the Canadian drivers here in the field, just a little bit of a problem going through that final corner, and that's really what stacked everything
up.
And
now Gabe Wood. Gabe Wood pulls off to the side of the road in his JD Esports 04. Is he going to be able to nurse the car back to pit lane? That will be the question. Let's grab an immediate look at the RaceSpotTV replay here, DJ, and talk us through what you see.
Well, here you can see coming down into the corner there for Guyon, and that's going to be a little bit blocked there by the trees. I think he just caught a little bit of that curbing. Let's take a different look at the angle here. He's going to come down into the curb. No, excuse me. He just brought too much speed down into the corner. The rear end of the car let away. Taylor left with really nowhere to go. Guyon did the right thing. He held the brakes. I think Taylor just misjudged how much space was between him and the wall of champions.
Fowler, to correct you, because Matt Taylor runs in third. Yes, no, we've all done that, don't worry. Back with live pictures, working lap 3 of 47. It will be Razmas that finally gets in front of Rodriguez, and crucially, because the gap between 4th and 5th has ballooned to 1.7, and Razmas knows he's got to get the pedal down right now and close before he's dropped by the breakaway at the front.
Yes, he is. Let's see what he is able to do here. The 68 holding off Rodriguez right now, but he doesn't want to be looking in that rearview mirror. As you said, he has got to keep his eyes ahead. The gap's already 1.7 seconds. Got to get a move on.
Still early days, of course, in this race, but with the quality at the front of the field, you cannot afford to be left in the dust before this race has even begun. Chris Fowler, Gabe Wood both head down to pit lane. See how long they spend, how much damage they incurred from shenanigans through the final chicane. Sean Campbell a quarter of a second off the back of Michael O'Brien. And for Michael O'Brien, it's going to feel a little bit like deja vu. We jump on board by the RSR by Butt Kicker Machine. Remember at Twin Ring Motegi, the last time we went road racing on September 22nd.
Oh!
Now what's just happened to Michael O'Brien?
I have no idea there, Arjuna. There was a little puff of brake smoke coming down into the corner, but that almost looks like he missed a gear coming out. That's the only logical explanation that I can give of why he would slow up that much.
Now, let me put my big brain hat on. Is this Michael O'Brien trying to stop leading this race so he can save some fuel?
That's the only other strategical explanation that I can come to think of there. And I mean, that was a pretty massive lift, but he timed it right. He's still right back into the throes of this battle and certainly on the back, so very well could be it.
Doesn't look like there was anything in terms of him cutting the track, and now Chris Reagan will go off and have to rejoin as cars still funnel their way through the opening corners on the lap. Check back in with your race leaders, but yeah, for Michael O'Brien, I'm just wondering if that was big-brained. Here's a look at it, and you'll just see how sudden a pull-off it is. At this point, it would have had to be an infraction on this particular lap that would have garnered him a slowdown penalty, and like I said, DJ, doesn't look like he stepped over the track limits too much. Now Sean Campbell will try and break away, already 6/10 clear at the hairpin.
Yeah, he's 6/10 clear, and he's going to be hoping to get a little bit more on that if he can. But here we ride on board with Sirois, just holding his time a little bit here, I think, just waiting to see what everything is going to happen. He's got a good run here, but not really close enough as we've got a car off through the grass.
Chris Lanini in the 92, the latest car off the track. It's a difficult one. with curbs that can really throw you for a toss. Great vantage point as the cars fly through the final chicane. I have no doubt we have a couple of replays to now take a look at. Alex Guyon fights with Craig Forsyth for 12th spot as they work into the final corner. Outside line is always so tricky to try and hold on to, but Guyon's going to bully his way through, forces contact, and now up and over will go Chris Reagan, I believe, after getting into contact earlier on in this very same lap. He lands on his lid and retires from the race.
And I've got to say here for Guyon, I think that was a little bit too aggressive of a maneuver this early on in the race. If he had that overspeed, he should have maybe just held that, tried to back up going in through that corner and try it again.
See if we can pick up the replay. Here we go. So, you can just see he sends it, he commits, and then thinks that Forsyth will let him go. Poor Reagan. Wrong place, wrong time. See if we can pick up what happened to Reagan earlier on.
Yeah, just a bad lap here all around for Chris Reagan. This is the replay coming down into the corner, catches a little bit of the curb, and that, I think he got onto the power there while those rear tires were up in the air, courtesy of bouncing over those curbs, and that was enough to send him around. We take a look back here at some of the further incidents in the field.
So this was what happened to Lanini. Left side's in the grass. Simple case there is poor. Luis Gonzalez Nunez. Lucky break, lucky getaway there.
Yeah, he's thanking his lucky stars on this one. Whoa, and just how quickly the rear end of that car snapped around. I guarantee you Luis's heart was in his throat at that.
It was pretty vicious. So Reagan, I think, will become the only retiree from the race because Chris Fowler is back on track after 3 minutes and 30 seconds of repairs. 2 laps adrift, but trying to salvage something in terms of points. Mainly, I would guess, for MadWorks Motorsports. Gabe Wood runs 21st. After coming down pit lane, he spent 32 seconds on the lane getting service, so not sure exactly how much damage he is still contending with or if they have been able to get that car knocked back into some sort of race-worthy condition. About an hour racing left to go, and an hour here is going to feel like an eternity when you can't afford to make a mistake with the walls ever present.
Yeah, very much so, Arjuna. We mentioned it before. Temporary road course here, and the walls very, very much coming up on either side of you. We don't tend to think of this place necessarily as a street circuit, but it virtually is. The majority of the year, this is a public road and cycling paths here on the Ile de Notre Dame.
I love this track. I just wish that more venues, or rather more series, could come and host racing here. Would love to see IndyCar come to this track north of the border, although not at the expense of Toronto, which is also a fantastic circuit. On to lap 8, still no changes at the front, and this is kind of what was expected. For momentum, for rhythm to play its part, Razmas able to get in front of Rodriguez, but has now been dropped to the tune of 3 full seconds. There's a look at the movers and shakers. It's Jim Herrick, Craig Forsyth, Trevor Malone, they're all +5. Paul Jenkins, I saw his son Andrew Jenkins in our YouTube chat. He's up 6 spots so far. But of course, we've had a handful of big losers. Fowler, Reagan, and Guyon, just a few examples.
Yes, indeed. And I think we're going to see a few more before the end of this race. This track just willing to catch people out. And I can tell you, Arjuna, I have to agree with you. This is one of my favorite tracks in the world. I've been lucky enough to have been able to attend 2 Formula One races here. And it is one of the best spectator tracks I get to sit like what we saw in the hairpin. It was amazing.
I'm now very jealous. We look at a fight for 12th with Roberts, Forsyth, and Malone. That hairpin has seen so many notable moments, not just passes, but of course its fair share of crashes, most significantly of which 2007, what we saw with Robert Kubica. Now Sean Campbell has just done the very same thing, so I'm 100% convinced that Michael O'Brien was just trying to play the fuel game. Campbell has only slid back to second though for the time being, as Paul Jenkins gets in front of Gallus through the hairpin. Plenty of gamesmanship. I think that's the way to put it here today.
Yeah, gamesmanship on display for these drivers. Nobody really wanting to lead here at this point. I'm going to be interested to see if Matt Taylor maybe decides to do the few things. There's Gallus making the repass on Paul Jenkins there, going down into the final chicanes. A little bit interesting, and that's allowing for Ricky Harden to get back involved in this conversation.
Yeah, there's plenty of fights going on. I think it's just the nature of the track is allowing opportunities through the course of various mistakes, but Gallus nice and tidy through the opening couple of corners. Will hold on for now. Love the sound of this Lotus 79. Sean Campbell tucked in behind Taylor. I get the feeling we're going to play a bit of a merry-go-round at the front of the field for the first stint of the race, and I think maybe the second stint is where you just naturally, right, DJ? Gaps open up in pit lane because different drivers can execute better than others.
Yeah, I think you do, and especially if you've got Sean Campbell coming in behind you, you've got to be very, very careful there. You do not want to be really running around this close, let's say with 7 laps to go with Sean Campbell in your rearview mirror. You have got to try to pull away, and you've got to try to pull away now.
I would never want to run this close to Sean Campbell, to be fair. We're coming off a week where Sean Campbell has finally been bested in the Precision Racing League 2022 Season 4 GT3 Sprint Series, and only because, DJ, he has been campaigning the Porsche 911 for the first 4 rounds of the championship. For whatever reason, he claims it wasn't his fault, but as a software engineer, I always tend to, we have this term, PEBCAC. Problem exists between keyboard and user. The inference being the problem is the person using it. But he claims that it was not his fault that he signed up in the McLaren, which also means he will get a 20-point penalty for the season, but meant he had to scramble on 90 minutes notice or something to try and put a setup together for a fire-breathing machine that just does not like to be stable.
No, it certainly doesn't. It's one of the hardest cars to drive in all of iRacing. A lot of liftoff oversteer in that McLaren. Obviously one of the best looks you can get when you do have that liftoff of the throttle and flames spitting out the back. But it is a high degree of difficulty to be able to drive that car. A lot like this Lotus 79. Very, very tricky, very snappy rear end, particularly under light fuel loads here in the Lotus. So you've got to know how to handle it right.
Coming up on Chris Fowler, who does still look like he has some damage, so as he goes 3 laps down, will not play a major part. We talk about the age of that McLaren, but it is good that it still gets a decent amount of usage. It's being run in the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship by 5 teams, and while I'm sure they'd love for the 720S to be an option, they will settle for a car that spits flames out the back. Love that camera shot down out of the corner, which became infamous for the mistake that Sebastian Vettel made. And then this next corner, also infamous for a mistake that Sebastian Vettel made. To be fair, Sebastian Vettel has some memories that he'd like to forget from Formula One races at this track.
Yeah, he certainly does, and I know you said you were jealous when I mentioned that I was at this track. Have to tell you, I was there for that first Vettel mistake. I was there for the longest race in Formula One history in 2011.
Oh, now I'm even more jealous.
It was amazing. It was cold, it was frigid, but it was amazing.
That I could imagine. Makes me glad I wasn't there for that part of it. Oh, Paul Jenkins. Oh, now that's a bit of damage to the front of his Elite West Racing number 35. Now, was it assisted, or is there less to the story than maybe we'd like to be talking about? There's only one way to tell, DJ. That's to take a look at the replay.
Yeah, here he comes. This is going to be down into 6 and 7 here. Looks like the rear end of that car just wanted to break away from him, and he lost it around there. Just a little bit of a tap of the rear end. Let's watch on board. Watch his hands as he tries to recover it. He can tell that it's starting to go. Tries to use that little bit of a break of the rear end there to actually rotate the car a little bit, and it was just a little bit too much of a kick.
It's a difficult car to tame for the best. It's as simple as that. Front 4, split by 1.3. They are pushing each other all the way right now as you see Ricky Harden come to pit lane. Not sure if this is just him trying to get out of the way, because you can make your first stop hypothetically at this point, or if there's something else going on. Sean Campbell right on the back of Matt Taylor, but we're not really expecting him to go for the lunge. See him release the pressure as they head into the braking zone, and watch as Taylor separates slightly, the accordion as they get back onto the power. We are halfway through the fuel window though, and DJ, it is Taylor that has now led the majority of the laps at the front.
Yes, it is, and the question's going to be here is if Taylor wants to try to back off, or if he's maybe running a little bit of a fuel strategy here where he's not aiming to fuel save on this first stint and instead is maybe looking to fuel save on the second stint. I wonder if we're going to see that come into play here a little bit of gamesmanship across what we expect to be the 3 stints on the day.
And it's not just the execution on pit lane that is going to determine the gaps out of the first cycle of pit stops, because again, like we said, we have big fuel windows. It's a 47 lap race with a 20 lap fuel capacity for the tank. Basically means you could split it up into 3 equal chunks if you wanted to, which technically might not be the slowest way to go, into 3 15 lap stints. However, you can't take fuel out at the start of the race, so basically you're obligated just go for all 20 laps and then figure it out from there. So it becomes a 27 lap equation with a 20 lap fuel window. How do you figure it out? How much fuel will you put in at each juncture of the stint? Very curious to find out. Now split by less than a second, the front four, as they'll come up now on Gabe Wood. More lap traffic to play its part. And of course, if we take a look at the track map, you can see that it's not likely to be too big a factor, as the leaders work down the back straightaway, most of the traffic already into the third of the chicanes.
Yeah, and that was a little bit strange there for Matt Taylor. I think he was trying to give up the lead a little bit, maybe trying to back off, but just wasn't able to do it. And that sort of set off a little bit of an accordion going down into that final chicane. It looked like Cyril was maybe trying to make a move. Now he is going to try to make a move here on Campbell.
It's why I thought if you're Campbell, I know why he wanted to try and hold on to second, but surely it would have been smarter to, at the very least, slide back to third. He'll convert the outside to the inside into turn 2. And they're actually starting to fight a little bit now. O'Brien might think about a lunge to the inside. To the second chicane, they'll go down the hill, but if Sean Campbell wants to save fuel, you can't have everything your own way. David Tyrrell wants second. It might be wiser to let the Canadian have it.
Maybe wiser to be able to let him have it here. I think if they continue to fight, they've got to worry about Taylor getting away. But we'll have to see if Campbell's going to be able to respond here on this to be able to keep that up. Cyril has dropped back just a little bit, and he's now going to be in the clutches of Michael O'Brien. So the question is going to be as if O'Brien wants to be able to get better.
So next lap will be lap 15. As I think we have our next retiree from the race, Paul Jenkins, having a subsequent issue at the very same corner, albeit about 50 meters later. Big light up of the tires, getting a bit more damage onto the front left of his car, and I think Jenkins says no more, thank you very much. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve unfortunately got the better of him. Mark Cohn and Jim Herrick fighting out of the hairpin. It will be Cohn that grabs the inside, and if he's got the momentum, the inside for the chicane is where you really want to be, but Herrick around the outside a little bit faster. It's a drag race into the braking zone.
It's going to be a battle of the late breakers here as they come down into the corner right now. The number 40 of Jim Herrick trying to be able to carry that momentum. We've seen this go wrong before. Herrick's going to choose discretion as the better part of valor and back off.
They did slow to a crawl, to be fair, because I think they both kind of anticipated they were going to go side by side. Eventually Herrick said, all right, thank you very much, you have the position. Lost a little bit of momentum and a little bit of time that time by. So after this, it's a trip to the Worldwide Technology Raceway, and it is a back-to-back double-header for these drivers. So October 27th, short track racing in these Lotus 79s. After that, a bit of a break, but November 10th, we head to America's National Park of Speed, Road America, for what should be a fantastic race and where we'll crown our road course champion. And then December 15th, a full month separating drivers from the penultimate and final rounds of the championship. We will sew up the third and final Lionheart champion of 2022 as we head to Auto Club, where all the Lionheart champions will be crowned. And really, that is a race where this year Mike Rasmas is just hoping it is not as close, it is not as dramatic as it was between Morgan and Taylor at the end of last year.
Well, as Rasmus is continuing to go along here, I've got to say he's looking to be not in the best position tonight to be able to try to make that a stress-free end to everything. So we're going to have to see exactly what is going to shake himself out. He finds himself about 3.5 seconds behind this leading pack right now. He'll still probably be able to hold on to the lead of the championship, but especially with Sirois and Taylor up at the top, that's going to see that lead come down a little bit.
Let's see if we can bring up some live points for you, and if they are working. The points themselves look good, at least as it runs right now. No changes inside of the top 9 positions, and Rasmus would lead by a very healthy margin. It is now almost up to 80 points, remember. Double points for the finale. If Rasmus can build that advantage into the triple digits, by the time we land up at that final round, accounting for drop weeks, he very well be able to relax and just focus on grabbing a Triple Crown win to solidify what has been an outstanding 2022 for him after leading the championship midway through last year. Through the chicane once more, they'll finish lap 16 with 4 to go before they'll run themselves out of fuel.
Yes, indeed, as they work their way around right now, trying to see, well, is Michael O'Brien there on the last lap, setting the fastest lap of the race with a time of 1:27.177. It's a little bit interesting. That was about, let's call it 0.3 of a second faster than anybody else in front of him. So clearly some good speed here from O'Brien. We could see him start to challenge. Remember, he was leading early on and dropped back.
Listen to them on the power, so tentative through these slower complexes, trying to avoid lighting up the tires and then losing control. But if you overheat the rubber, you'll pay the price over the next half a lap or so. So it's even more crucial to keep them in the right window. O'Brien all over the rear of Sirois, who is now 7/10 separated from Campbell. O'Brien not really close enough to commit, but Sirois has to give him a space, and that allows O'Brien to get the up and under and fight side by side.
Yes, it does. Looks like he didn't exactly have quite enough speed to be able to get it there, but he may have the draft coming down the back straightaway here. Let's see if he decides to poke his nose to the inside.
Some great respectful stuff shown at the front, and it's all about the mental warfare right now rather than the wheel-to-wheel action. Sirois slowly getting dropped from the front, but crucially still within drafting range. But is Sean Campbell smiling because now it might be a 2-car train? I talked earlier about maybe the best thing being to allow Sirois to run in second. Is this what Campbell was thinking about?
Maybe it was starting to build a little bit of a gap. Let's call it 0.6 of a second in between. That could be what he was hoping for, just that little bit of an attack from behind. Look out the back here of Matt Taylor, the Madworks Motorsports machine. Campbell continuing to stalk behind, taking the perfect amount of curves there through 6 and 7.
On board now with Campbell, who was, I think, intentionally getting out of the tow so he doesn't close any more than he absolutely has to on Matt Taylor, which feels like quite big brains, but at the same time, why don't you just lift a little bit with the right foot like he did right there?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why he would want to do that there, but you know, let it not be us who question Sean Campbell, who's won 3 races on the trot.
Fair enough. I'm just trying to see the logic. Maybe if anyone is watching, they can clue us in here on RaceSpotTV. Will we see a dive to pit lane as we finish lap 18? It was a short formation lap, so we shouldn't see too much. Puff of smoke, and Craig Forsyth slow out of the scene of the incident. See, Trevor Malone is retired, so I'm not sure if I can put 2 and 2 together and figure there was something amiss between the two of them. But let's find out here. The teal Malone car has Forsyth in front, and as they work off the corner, oh my word! Oh my word, Malone up into the catch fencing.
That was a massive impact there can see, just catching it around it, and Trevor Malone nowhere to go, just a hapless passenger and up and over and into the wall.
My days. Hellacious lick for Trevor Malone, who is very glad that the racing is virtual here today. Because my days, though, that is a bad one. End of lap 19 about to come, though. Fuel about to run itself out. Will anyone try the undercut? Will anyone throw a gamble? Because it has well and truly opened up through the field. As we look at our track map, there are plenty of gaps for drivers to cycle into if they pit one lap early.
Well, let's see here. I think if anybody's going to have to come down pit lane, it's probably going to be Matt Taylor. Let's see, and there he comes. Also, Sirwa following in. And
there we saw the difficulty. I mentioned it briefly earlier, but Sirwa had to get on the brakes to avoid running into Campbell and then get back on the accelerator so he didn't lose too much time before he actually had to get down to pit lane. It'll be Sean Campbell, Michael O'Brien that continue to run. I wonder if O'Brien's going to be able to go maybe 21, 22 laps, because he's been minding the fuel for basically the entirety of the stint after releasing himself from the pressure of the front.
Yeah, I think it is. Let's see if he's able to put in an absolute blinder of a lap here. I'm keeping my eye. He did set a personal best last time out of a 127.31. Let's see here as he comes over the first sector mark. I'm going to be interested to see. It's not a personal best quite yet. He's still got plenty of time to try to make up.
All of the major drivers at the front who have pitted come out in clean air, and that's going to be crucial as they'll now push. With a heavy car, it will slow them down, but will they be able to make the undercut work? We will find out likely this lap, as Sean Campbell at the very least expected to owe us a pit stop. With now all bar a handful of cars having made a trip to pit lane. It's Campbell, O'Brien, Rodriguez, the front three yet to pit. Then it's Daniels, Cohn, Herrick, and Gallus who are yet to pit. Everyone else, as Chris Lanini already in the lane, has made a trip to pit lane. Campbell and O'Brien blink together and roll to the lane.
Yes, they do. So now is going to be the big truth moment to see here if Taylor and Sirwa are going to be able to come out. Now, crucially here for David Sirwa, he finds himself about 1.5 seconds behind in the order of those pits, but that's despite taking 0.4 of a second less on fuel. Looks like there that O'Brien and Campbell both get into their box nice and easy, so that's going to be a relief there for them.
For Sirwa, the time lost was all about having to check up to avoid excuse me, running into the back of Sean Campbell. O'Brien will hit the front, but now, with the fuel games wide open, who knows who really will want to lead this race?
Yeah, exactly. As O'Brien comes out ahead, Campbell behind him. Taylor's got a little bit of work to do, and Sirwa has the most work of all to catch back up.
So separation from the front two, but Taylor technically still within drafting range. Like DJ points out, it is Sirwa with the most work to do. Rasmus has been able to break the toe of Rodriguez as well. So like we said, this fuel window will open things up. Of note, I think Michael O'Brien had the shortest pit stop of all. However, that does not mean that he has compromised himself in the final stint, DJ. That's just a reflection of how much fuel he has likely saved.
Yes, it is, and that is absolutely crucial there for him. If he's able to save that much fuel, the biggest thing that can happen is he is going to be able to just take less fuel in the stops, and that will be absolutely mega for him.
So it sets itself up for quite an exciting middle stint, but now it's really on the pressure for Taylor and Sirwa to move forward. Remember, not just fighting to close to Mike Rasmus for the championship lead, but at the very least, DJ, grab second in the championship.
Exactly, and that's what they're going to be looking at here. It may be a little bit out of touch to be able to catch up to Mike Rasmus, as we showed there a little bit earlier, but it certainly could be close enough to be able to get in on second, be able to take some of those good prizes away.
The season is winding itself to a close. We have just 4 races left in the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. We have landed north of the border here on the Ile Notre Dame at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the Gomez Sim Industries Grand Prix of Montreal, presented by SimRace247.com. It is Michael O'Brien, the pole position winner, that leads from Sean Campbell. But they have broken away from Matt Taylor and David Sirwa, but it is still anyone's game with more than half the race still left to go. You're watching RaceSpotTV. The run to the checkered flag coming up next.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and round 15 of the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. We're in Canada at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the Gomez Sim Industries Grand Prix of Montreal, presented by SimRace247.com. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth by the one and only DJ Clark. And DJ, we well and truly have a two-car breakaway at the front of the field. When we said goodbye to the viewers, it was 1 second that split Sean Campbell from Matt Taylor. Over the course of 2.5 minutes, the gap has grown to over 3 full seconds. O'Brien and Campbell are on a flyer. Almost halfway through this one, and it is still plenty of excitement left, but of course it is the margin at the front that is of it note. DJ, there really isn't too much fighting going on now. We've seen plenty of attrition so far today.
We certainly have plenty of attrition here for these drivers. A lot of drivers just falling into problems here, and not necessarily where you'd think. We've only had 1 or 2 incidents coming through the wall of champions, and that certainly is where the prime danger area is. We expect more drivers to have those problems there, but we've seen them kind of all over the track here, Arjuna.
And 23 started. You say we haven't had too much issues, but 23 started. Already 4 have retired, and Chris Fowler is 3 laps down after spending about 3.5 minutes getting damage repairs. So it has taken out a substantial chunk of the field. We are halfway through this one. We watched the front 2. Remember, Sean Campbell is on a 100% roll that is never going to be repeated. Let's be fair. It's hard enough to win race number 1 in a championship that you compete in, DJ. It's hard enough to win 2 in a row, but then 3 in a row in a discipline that you have very little experience in. What Sean Campbell has done is steal the spotlight from Mike Rasmus as we get ready to crown a new champion.
Yeah, exactly. Really and truly has stolen that spotlight, and stealing the spotlight here of the race as he is starting to close down on the back of Michael O'Brien out of pit stops, really making that push.
Yeah, they really are going, and I don't think there's too much fuel saving going on right now. These are 2 drivers that I think in this car are quite evenly matched. It will really be about that final pit stop and where it places them, and then how much they need to push from there to determine who wins this race. Mike Razmas, I think partially by virtue of slightly underfueling that car, is caught to the back of David Sirwa and is not totally off the back of Matt Taylor as well, as he searches to try and climb his way up to the podium. It's been a good stint so far from Razmas, who's built the advantage to Rodriguez to 3 full seconds.
Yes, he has, and that is pretty crucial there. Again, that 1 second gap is what we've talked about as the draft range here, and Rasmus now being able to close in on one of his, well, let's call him a title rival here. He's in second place. He's about 79 points back as they came in, but if he's able to get more points than Sirwa here, that is just going to be another nail into the coffin here of anybody else's title hopes.
Yeah, I just look back to midway through last year when Sage Karam withdrew from the championship, that he looked odds-on to rolling his way to victory. At that point, Mike Razmas inherited the championship lead with Morgan and Taylor behind him, and while he enjoyed a decent summer, it kind of petered off as we headed into the fall and into the closing stages. This time, though, he seems to just be continuing to be consistent, and consistency wins championships. It is as simple as that. Mike Razmas makes his 44th career start today with 37 previous top 10s. He averages almost a finish inside of the top 5. Let's talk about our Moser Racing driver profile, and unfortunately it's for a driver that he has been beaten and battered but continues to push. When Alex Guyon and the rest of the Leroy Motorsports team joined the championship last year, we thought they'd be good on the road courses. We wondered where they'd be on the ovals, but not just with David Sirwa, but with Alex Guyon as well, they have very much started to pick up the intricacies and the nuances of the ovals, and it shows in the results, with half of them being top 10s for Guyon, a driver that it's fair to say has found his own share of bad luck and being mixed up in incidents not of his own doing.
No, certainly not of his own doing there, but 16 top 10s, 3 top 5s. It really goes to show that he has come alive here in this series, and particularly that most recent top 5 that he's taken there. 3rd at Michigan, one of the super speedways that we run. A very, very tricky track. It's deceptively difficult the way you have to run it. You've got to have a lot of guts to be able to run fast around there, run very, very close with one another, and being able to take a podium at a super speedway like Michigan is the real mark of a true oval racer. So kudos there to Guyon.
I think you summed it up perfectly there, especially the fact that it was Michigan is what is so significant. 3-way fight now for 3rd. Razmas is closed on Sirwa, who is in turn caught back up with Taylor as we filter our way through the middle portion of this stint. 6 or 7 laps through the field for the drivers since last diving down to pit lane. And with the majority of the drivers taking less than a full tank of fuel, expect to see them in shy of the 20-lap marker this time around. For Razmas, he's got to take advantage with the lighter car now, because he'll flip-flop around at the end of the race. So it's really going to be about figuring out where the cars in front are slower so he can take advantage.
Yeah, exactly. And based off of those fuel times, I don't really anticipate anybody here doing a super, super quick fuel on that last pit stop. The only driver that may be in a little bit early looks to be Luke Daniels, back in 8th place. He only took about 6.6 seconds worth of fuel, so he may be in on the early side. But you are right, the fuel window is technically open to get us to the end of the race.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. Technically open. Yeah. I think it would change. Right? I like fixed setups. I like a lot of things. It would change if we had the ability to change the amount of fuel that we could put in at the start of the races. Because then I think with a fuel window like this, with a distance like this, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, they really and truly are, but that's one of the drawbacks here of having a fixed setup. Obviously not your iRacing base setup. These are custom made by the league admins to be able to put in to make cars a little bit racier and to make them on occasion a little bit more difficult to drive, so it's not quite a point and shoot.
It goes both ways. Sometimes it's to make them more difficult, sometimes it's to make them easier so we can get some of the dramatic races that we have. Andrew Kinsella has to work very hard across of 3 different cars as well. The Lotus 79, the Dallara DW12, and the Dallara IR18 to make sure across the 58 races that the series, the sanctioning body rather runs through its 3 series to make sure they have setups for all of them. It's a fun little challenge. We close on 30 laps in this one. The Gomez Sim Industries Grand Prix of Montreal presented by SimRace 24/7. We still watch this battle for third. At the front, it's kind of stagnated very slightly, and I think Sean Campbell is content to ride where he is right now, saving fuel, and you can hear him clutching in as they head to the hairpin.
Yeah, definitely starting to do a little bit of clutching and coasting there for Sean Campbell. I don't think he's in any hurry necessarily at this point to get by Michael O'Brien, and O'Brien does currently have the fastest lap of the race here set down, so he's starting to pull ahead a little bit as they go, but we'll have to see exactly if anybody's going to be coming down into pit lane. Doesn't look like they are. Again, I would anticipate them probably going about another, let's call it 10 laps or so before they come in.
I think I think O'Brien is in at least a little shorter. He may be in an 8 laps time. Remember, 7.6 seconds stationary, whereas Sean Campbell was closer to the 8.5, 9 second bracket that we saw from Taylor and Syrah. He's also saving the fuel, so expect the RSR by Butt Kicker 26 to extend even longer than maybe we anticipate to be possible. So 18 laps still left to go. Outside of the 2 fights of tracking in the top 6. There's really not much to play for. Yes, Craig Forsyth and Chris Lanini battle for what is 17th and 18th spots for the time being. But Chris Lanini still owes us a pit stop, whereas Craig Forsyth has already made his final dash down pit lane.
Yes, he has, and that's a little bit of that alternate strategy starting to play out, and I think that was really precipitated by that incident that we saw between Forsyth and Matt Taylor a little bit earlier on.
So, it's one of those races where drivers just endure. We have seen at least a couple of swap arounds for the lead, so we've bested the previous records. The records being 1 previous lead change. In the previous 2 races that we had, Season 1 and Season 2, so early in this competition, and the level of drivers, especially on the road courses, has increased quite significantly. Only 6 drivers finished on the lead lap in Season 2, and yes, it was Sage Karam that was setting the tempo and setting the pace, but as it runs right now, I think we're on for at least the top 10, at the very least, to maintain their position on this leading lap. In terms of lap records, if you're curious, by the way, DJ, we're comparing Season 2 to Season 6, so 4 years of change for this Lotus 79. Michael O'Brien, fastest lap, is a 1:27.177, so an 87.177 second time. The previous record, Sage Karam, an 88.014.
Well, looks like records are made to be broken, and that is indeed what we are setting down here today. So good to see those records start to tumble. Not entirely surprising based off of some of the updates that have come in. Luke Daniels here going to be the latest driver to come down pit lane and take his final stop.
8.7, that's a longer stop than I thought you'd need at this point. But he'll pass those green cones and release once more. Not sure what's happened, but David Siwa has lost some ground and has dropped out of drafting range to Matt Taylor in front.
Yeah, he certainly has dropped out of range there, so a little bit surprising. About 1.2 seconds back for Sirwal. I think part of that is he may be driving in his rear view mirrors. He's got Mike Rasmus behind him, and Rasmus has been hassling him here a little bit.
He has been, you know. Rasmus still there. Remember, we mentioned slightly shorter on fuel for the championship leader in 5th position, so expect him to dive a little bit earlier to the lane, but next time by, we hit 15 laps to go. Lap by lap, we are ticking these away. We've not just broken the race lap record, DJ, we've broken the qualifying lap record, which previously was an 87.808. So Michael O'Brien has taken about half a second plus out of that.
Yes, he has, so certainly trying to be able to get all of that down. It's really remarkable just how much speed these cars have, and like I said, I think that's partially as a result of the up updates that we've seen to these cars over the years. Remember, it was about a year ago that they really changed the way that these tires function. Yes, they are bias ply tires, but they certainly do have a little bit less hardness to them. They are a little bit more flexible, and there's a little bit more wear that goes in on them, and that does make them a little bit faster.
David Sirwa got very sideways as he stamped down onto the loud pedal out of the hairpin. Actually has a little bit of breathing room relative to Razmas behind. Your leaders come across the line separated by half a second as we have a car electing to try something different. Mike Razmas will pit and will pit first of those inside the top 5.
All right, so Rasmus here is going to be coming down pit lane. Should be good to go on the end on fuel. I wonder if he was actually able to save a little bit tucked behind David Sirwa there, and he'll be able to take a relatively short pit stop here at this point.
So he'll head into the box, not going up on the jack, so no tires being thrown on. And it's an 8.2 second stop. Will net him track position with 2 cars in front, one of them being Craig Forsyth. He comes out in front, though, of another lapped car. Forsyth immediately recognizes him in the rearview mirrors and releases him. It doesn't get much better. That's exactly what Razmas would have wanted.
Yes, that is perfect there for Mike. He is going to find himself in some clear air and to be able to put down some good hot laps here at this point and just try to streak away and maybe allow this little bit of clean air to get him up and ahead by David Sirwa.
Munoz in the 09 Backfire Motorsports car also down to the lane. Now, will Taylor or Sirwa respond to Razmas? We'll wait and see. We'll also wait and see what happens at the front of the field. O'Brien and Campbell content to go for yet another trip around this man-made island and this temporary road course. Taylor stays out. Sirwa will stay out as well. So now Razmas has to set in some flyers.
Yeah, he's really going to have to put him in here. The question's going to be is when does Sirwa decide to come down into pit lane? He's going to stay out here at this point, and we'll be able to get a good idea of lap times when they cross over here in a little bit.
We'll get it the next time by for Razmas in particular. David Rodriguez will come down to pit lane in the RSR by butt kicker number 10. We talked about him leading the butt kicker rookie of the year standings. Looks like he will continue to extend his advantage at the front of that as they run right now. So if you're Campbell, you know you've saved some fuel. You know you're set. You've got the flexibility. What do you do, DJ Clark, if you're in the shoes of that 45 Madworks Motorsports machine?
Well, at this point, I'm going to start thinking about peeling off down into pit lane. Now, granted, the one caveat to that is we haven't really seen Campbell be aggressive. He just seems to be okay where he is. And we've seen the ability to maybe get passed around here with the updates on this car, so I would say you maybe try to peel off here in the next 2 or 3 laps to try to get that undercut to work. But the one thing I don't want to do is I do not want to pit on the same lap time that Michael O'Brien does. So if I'm thinking about coming in early and O'Brien peels off early, I try to go as far as I can to the end.
You heard the pit siren for Luis Gonzalez Nunez, who made his way to pit lane. Next time by, 12 to go. Lap by lap, we're ticking them off. So Matt Taylor still 1.5 clear of David Sirwa in that fight for third. 127.7 last time by for the two of them. Now we wait to see what Mike Razmas will do in comparison. It's a 128.00, so he's lost about 0.3 on that lap alone.
And that is not good news for David Sirwa, or indeed David Sirwa's title hopes. He wants to just try to push as hard as he can here, but I don't know if he's got it. The other thing to thinking about here is that Michael O'Brien just set a purple sector time through the first sector, so he may be pushing here in the attempt to come on down pit lane.
How hard do you really want to risk it at this point, though, if you're any of these drivers? Because there's not too much going on. Are they really going to be trying to throw it away at a track which has already bidden so many drivers? Once again down the back straightaway on lap 14, here comes Michael O'Brien, and straight to pit lane. You saw how committed he was as he ran himself to the braking zone for pit lane entry. The benefit of having clean air in front of you.
Yeah, exactly, and that's going to work out just about perfectly there for him. Now, the question's going to be is if Campbell really starts to push here, and indeed, I think he is, as he sets the fastest lap out of anybody on that last lap. So this could very well come down to execution in the pits and how well Campbell's going to be able to act on this in-lap.
The RSI by Butt Kicker Machine may try and extend it even longer if possible. Michael O'Brien will rejoin just in front of Luis Gonzalez Nunez. Clean air is what the 45 would have wanted to see. Now the question is, with 17 odd minutes to run, how does the rest of this race play out? Can O'Brien be the one to spoil the 100% party for Sean Campbell? Sean Campbell will be very much hoping that he can use this overcut to put in a little bit less fuel to go as a rocket ship and to charge from here, but he's got some traffic up the road from him.
Yes, he does, and also some bad news there. Michael O'Brien with a very, very quick stop, 7.9 seconds, so in and out quite quickly down pit lane. That's going to be a big boost there to him. Now, the question's going to be is if Campbell decides to peel off down pit lane on this run, or if he was able to save enough to maybe go a little bit longer.
I thought he was coming for a sec. I totally misjudged the braking zone in these cars. I was like, he's coming. He's pinned to the floor. He's coming. At least one more lap, and these are the crucial laps. A 27.244. Basically matching the lap time from the previous lap from Sean Campbell. 1,000th difference between the two laps.
Very, very impressive stuff there from Campbell. He is absolutely trying to blitz the field here as he goes.
He's been patient. Sometimes you need to do that. You can't just be pedal to the metal from the start of the race. You've got to be the wise old head. You've got to be cerebral. As Sean Campbell being able to do that. Sean Campbell, by the way, also proves that you don't need the best equipment to go racing, DJ, because he uses a single monitor, and I don't want to say not good equipment, but it's not the highest end equipment in the world.
No, it's not, but it just shows you how well you can do it. I mean, we've heard stories from Adam Blocker using just a desk chair and what we would consider some relatively low-end equipment through many of his championships as well. So if you've got the driving talent, you've got the talent, and the equipment just helps you.
Absolutely. It is all just a tool to get you where you need to go. 10 laps next time by, left to run in this race. Sean Campbell approaches lap 17 of his stint. Bit of a lock-up from the right front, but he unloads it in time. Michael O'Brien, excuse me. As Matt Taylor will come to pit lane. Got confused because I saw the Madworks Motorsports number 8 diving onto the lane, and now we get to see Razmas versus Taylor. Has the undercut played out the way the championship leader would have hoped?
Well, we'll have to see there. There is Mike Rasmus coming down the back straightaway right now. This will probably be a relatively quick stop for Taylor. I would anticipate under about 7.5 seconds there for him, and indeed 6.5 seconds for the number 8. This could be a little bit close, but I think Taylor's got him.
It's not even close because he was 1.8 seconds quicker in the box itself, and with a faster couple of laps after being able to use the light nature of his car, will go. Now we will worry, though, given how much he's grown the gap to Razmas, what it will do in the fight with Sirois. We will have to wait and see. I think it also gives us the indication that for Michael O'Brien, who did, excuse me, never mind, Michael O'Brien is faster than Sean Campbell already, despite having more fuel.
My goodness gracious, let it never be said that the Australian doesn't have the pace and the tenacity. Got to work his way by some lap traffic right now, but he is on an absolute flyer here.
And that was a new fastest lap of the race. Totally blew past me. So Sean Campbell continues to extend. 9 to go this time by at the line. For the man searching a 4th win in 4 races in his entire Lionheart Retro Series career. It's only a 1:27.196. If Michael O'Brien can continue to find some time, O'Brien may still be in with a chance of victory. It will be David Sirois to pit lane this time by, but I think we have to answer the question, just how fast is Michael O'Brien? It's only a 27.3 this time by, but let's be real, that is flying given he had to deal with traffic.
Yeah, absolutely flying there for him. My goodness gracious. And I mean, that is, he's a little bit slower there, about 1.7 second, or 0.17 seconds slower than Campbell up in front of him. But as you said, Arjuna had to deal with traffic along the way. That is a very, very impressive run.
David Sirath comfortably in 4th position. The undercut has very much not played out for Mike Razmas the way that he would have wanted. Partially just because he had to put in more fuel. It's as simple as that. He's burned basically at least a second relative to those around him, just in terms of time in pit lane. The delta here is hard to calculate from cone to cone, from by the time you need to get down to the limiter, and from when you're allowed to go back up to racing speed. It is about a 32 to 30 second difference. However, because you shortcut the track, it's hard to truly judge. But now we find out how it will play out, because here comes the RSR by butt kicker number 26.
All right, it's judgment time here for Sean Campbell. There you can see O'Brien already about 3/4 of the way down the backstretch right now before Campbell has even gotten into the box, coming through the Quebec chicane out by the wall of champions. I think he's going to have this, but a 5.2 stop, that's quick for Campbell.
It's 2 seconds quicker than what we saw from Michael O'Brien when he had to come to the pit lane, and it won't be that close, but there's still touching distance between the two of them. Sean Campbell leads by 2.3 seconds with 8 laps still to go here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
Oh, it's all to play for, and now it is time to see who is going to be able to just drive this thing on pace. Arjuna, we can assume that both Campbell and O'Brien are good to go to the end in these final 8 laps, and it's all just going to be about raw, outright pace.
And I think now maybe we'll actually see just how fast Sean Campbell is, because the shackles have been released, and he doesn't have to feel safe from here to the checkered flag.
No, he doesn't. He'll be able to get himself just full steam ahead. And so we'll have to see what the pace of that number 26 is outright. The gap right about now is about 2.2 seconds as they run. We'll have to see if there's going to be able to close down here if you are Michael O'Brien.
What do you have to do to beat Sean Campbell, DJ? Because this is a worrying sign for everyone heading into 2023. I think we're at the point where we should just tell Lionheart to not bother, to just give him the championship and to not have to show up for 18 rounds on every Thursday in next year.
I mean, can you do a balance of performance in open wheel racing?
We can make Sean Campbell drive blindfolded. Does that count?
I think that may be the way to do it.
One-handed. We can make him actually have to use an H-pad and shifter while driving one-handed. Throwing ideas out there.
I like all of them. We'll have to take them all into consideration. We'll have to go talk to George Anzalda, the series organizer, to see if we can make any of them work.
To be fair, it's not too unfamiliar. I think the last time this Lionheart Retro Series had a driver win on debut, it was at this series, or rather at this track, when Sage Karam won in his very first outing back in Season 2. And what a storied career he'd have go on to have in this series, not just in the real world as well, of course, but Sage Karam has... My days, I've lost how many wins that Sage Karam has got off the top of my head, because it is just that many of them. 38 starts, 18 wins, and there was that run. He's had multiple runs where he's won either 3 races in a row or 2 races in a row. He's run 3 races in a row twice. He's run 2 races in a row on 3 different occasions. He just won for fun.
Yeah, exactly. He was one of the best competitors that this series has ever seen.
Oh.
And,
I just realized history's going to be made today if Sean Campbell wins.
4.
First time we'll have 4 in a row in the Lionheart Retro Series.
This could be very well history-making, and as you said, Arjuna, a very, very ominous sign for next year should Sean Campbell choose to compete in full-time racing.
I'm now just trying to think how we can curse this so that Sean Campbell doesn't continue to enjoy it. Like, I know we talk about commentators' curses, but how can we help to make this? Let's just remember, though, in context, 4 in a row will be great. But it ties Phil Krause for second in the most wins in the Lionheart IndyCar Series on the bounce. Adam Blocker still last year, 5 in a row. Gateway, Indianapolis Road, then the 500, then Milwaukee, then Silverstone. I mean, to win 5 in a row is great, but to add the 500 in there as well, it speaks to the year that Blocker had last year. Kraus has just been on fire this year as well.
Yeah, indeed he has. He has been absolutely unstoppable as they run, and so that is certainly going to be a big thing. We've got a little bit of a battle starting to play itself out here, though. Mark Cohn, Luke Daniels, this is going to be the battle back for 8th place.
I'm here for it. I'm going to enjoy this nice fight to the end. Luke Daniels, one of the first to make their final stop. Mark Cohn has just finished their first lap after coming down to the pit lane, and Mark Cohn is up 5 positions to run himself in the top 8 as they stand right now, but with 6 laps to go, this should be a fun little fight. You said you were here in 2011 for that infamous moment. It might take that for Sean Campbell to lose this one, and moments like that, they get ingrained into the folklore, and it's been ingrained into the sim racing folklore as well, DJ. I was commentating on a series earlier this year with some of the best sim racing teams on different platforms coming together and racing across the different sim racing platforms. And it was a best of 3 finals. We had whittled down 30 teams to just 2. You get 3 races, 3 drivers from each team, and you go. One team won the first race, was coming through the final corner to win the second race and to basically seal the victory. And their driver, they claim accidentally, turned off the traction control. And so as they power out of the final corner at Bathurst, loop it around, and lose the race, requiring the best of 3 to settle it. It's now known as the Tauscher after the driver. However, the reality is that's why we love motorsports, because we have moments like that where we all get so excited, and it was really fun getting to see you in your element at the PA booth at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, because you've had a blockbuster year, my friend.
I have been very, very fortunate to be able to be traveling all around the country with SRO, to be able to do everything, and it was fantastic to be able to see you there as well, doing the SRO Asus Republic of Gamers Invitational. Really, really incredible stuff, and so special to be able to share that with you and the rest of the SRO family.
Hey, we got to I got to commentate for 10 minutes. You got to commentate for 7 hours and 50 minutes of of the first ever race into the night at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, making history, DJ.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it hit me just about when you walked up into the booth.
Yep.
And I kind of looked around and was and just sort of thought, "Oh my goodness,
the
this
sun
is
was coming
happening."
down. You could just see it through the. Oh, bit of a mistake there from Mark Cohn. Will the opportunity be there for the 40 sim racing car? Not yet. It was the sun coming through the grandstands. It was you, me, Joe Peak, Austin Belkey. 4 guys who just came from sim racing, and we were the only ones in the booth here at IMS with the podium off to our right-hand side. Yeah, it was one of those moments where you just look around and go, is this real?
Yeah, it very, very much was. It was just special, and there's really no other word for it. It was something that I'd never experienced. As here comes Daniels down to the inside.
And he got sideways, committing to the corner before he even got to the curb. Through turn 1, nice little fight, and I think this one very much will be the fight to watch, because O'Brien and Campbell, while they're trying to close to each other through the traffic, or rather, O'Brien's trying to close, Campbell's trying to pull away, not really opened up just yet. So 4 to go will become 3 in about half a lap's time. Still have 12 cars on the lead lap, with only Rodrigo Munoz and maybe Danny Roberts, you'd think, in danger of getting dropped to the 1 lap down ranking by the time we finish this one. Sean Campbell, by the way, already through the opening sector here with 3 to go. And I mean, again, 4 in a row. How do we bop this driver to make it a fair fight?
I mean, unfortunately here, in the way open wheel racing works, there's no real BOP that we can lay down. But the truth of the matter is I think the rest of the Lionheart Retro Series has got to up their game to be able to come back here, because Sean Campbell is laying down stakes as, dare I say, a champion in waiting.
We're talking about a driver, to be perfectly clear here, who is in the Sim Racing Elite. He is going to be competing in the Virtual Le Mans Series, the Le Mans Virtual Series, excuse me, as part of Jensen Button's esports team, Rocket SimSport. He's very much starting to come into his own in 2022. He'll make it 2 laps to go and 2 laps away from history. More history for the RSR by butt kicker number 26. Michael O'Brien put it on pole and has fought as hard as he could, but it's again going to be second place for Michael O'Brien. I think this time, though, it's slightly different, DJ, to the other second place finishes that he's had, because this time he can claim, well, okay, Sean Campbell was the one that beat me.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you say Sean Campbell beats you, that means you might as well have won the race if anybody else was in it here at this point.
It's like, you know, Formula One fans have always talked about Formula 1.5.
Exactly.
Michael,
exactly.
Here's what we need to do. Sean Campbell is in a class by himself, racing nobody else.
Really is. I mean, he is just.
I mean,
he's been able to hold the gap. I mean, look at that. It's grown up to 2.5 seconds here at this point. Campbell is just doing what he needs to do, and I guarantee you, if he was under pressure here from O'Brien, probably pull that gap out a little bit more.
No, I'm just saying we found the way to BOP Sean Campbell.
Yeah, we have Lionheart 1.5.
Exactly. Yes, no, but we have to find a way so that he becomes the one. You know what I mean. Phrasing, marketing, doing it right is going to be important. Luke Daniels will come to start the penultimate lap of the race after losing some ground through the chicane. I get the distinct sense that maybe that fight started to bubble over.
Yeah, I think it may have come to a little bit of blows here. This is going down into the final chicane. Mark Cohn down to the inside. Daniels trying to hold it. Just called that braking zone wrong and had to run through the runoff there, and that was enough to cost him time.
One final trip around for Sean Campbell to write more history. It has been a close fight and a fun fight. That opening stint, I still wonder if Michael O'Brien had maybe been a little earlier to jump to the back, if it would have been different. If he had jumped to the back in stint 2, if it would have been different. However, the reality is you can ask all the questions that you want, but you only get one chance to work your way through a race, DJ.
Yeah, you only get one chance to do it right, and Sean Campbell has done it absolutely right here today, working his way out through the set of second chicanes, now through the third chicanes here. Really only the hairpin and the wall of champions to go.
Oh no, Luke Daniels has had another issue. He's dropped well off the back of Mark Cohn. Sean Campbell will indeed work his way through the final sectors. Let's pick up what happened to Luke Daniels very quickly as we watch Campbell round the hairpin for the very final time. It's as you come towards that hairpin and it's just already sideways, and the curb exacerbated the already sideways momentum of the car, and around she went. What can you say about Sean Campbell? He won on debut, he won again after that, and then he won on the oval, shocking everyone. So maybe it's no shock that he writes history here. 4 wins in a row, but Sean Campbell cannot be beat as he wins the Gomez Sim Industries Grand Prix in Montreal, presented by SimRace 24/7. Behind him, Michael O'Brien will grab second place, a valiant second place as well, while Matt Taylor grabs the final step on the podium. A good day for MadWorks Motorsports as they will re-grab the lead of the HyperX team standings. Siwat fourth, your championship leader finishes in 5th. An interesting race, that's for sure, DJ, as we return to the Ile Notre Dame.
Yeah, an exciting race there, obviously breaking the race record for number of lead changes. You'll love to see that over the course of a race, and some very, very fascinating fuel strategy here for all drivers involved.
Love a bit of fuel strategy. You don't just need endurance races to get the pit lane calls playing out. Michael O'Brien and Sean Campbell sharing a brief moment after the fact as Sean Campbell returns to pit lane. It will be Sean Campbell that burns it down in HyperX victory lane. Still a couple more stragglers yet to come across the line. Jim Herrick and Danny Roberts fighting for the final spot in the top 10 as they'll run themselves down into the chicane before grabbing the checkered flag here. 23 started, a mere 16 will take to the checkered flag. Just surviving this race, DJ, good enough for some.
Yeah, and I think that is something you can certainly hang your hat on, especially around a very difficult track such as this, to just be able to get to the end here. Only 15 drivers able to finish, only about 12 of them on the lead lap. That is plenty enough to be able to be happy.
No famous moments for Sean Campbell as he heads back to pit lane, but a 4th win in a row. It is Lionheart Retro Series history. And next up, a trip to the Worldwide Technology Raceway in Oval that lends itself to road course races. Could Sean Campbell tie Adam Blocker's record of 5 wins in a Lionheart sanctioned competition. You'll have to join us 7 days from today to find out. Here's a look though at your SimRace 24/7 race results, and while it is Sean Campbell that will grab the plaudits and the history with a 2-second margin of victory after 47 laps, for MadWorks Motorsports it is a continued charge toward the HyperX team standings as they grab 2 podiums here today. David Sirwa 4th with Mike Ragsmass 5th, the championship leader. David Rodriguez well and truly in the no man's land, 6th in the RSR by Butt Kicker 10th, solidifying his claim to the Butt Kicker Rookie of the Year championship. Tyler Graf, Mark Cohn, Luke Daniels and Jim Herrick finished the top 10, with Mark Cohn the biggest mover in that top 10 plus 5 positions. It'll be Danny Roberts and Rodrigo Munoz, those final 2 cars on the leading lap, with Hugo Gallish, Ricky Hardin and Luis Gonzalez Nunez the top 15. Guyon and Forsyth the final of the finishers 1 lap down, with Ricky Hardin and Nunez 6 and 7 positions gained respectively. Good days for them. Chris Fowler able to nurse his car home 4 laps down after getting damage in the early stages, while Chris Lanini and Trevor Malone complete the top 20. Wood, Jenkins and Reagan finish the field with 2 Elite West Racing cars down the very back. And that leads us into our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. Sean Campbell is standing by in HyperX victory lane, so let's go down there, where for the 4th time in 4 races we join the RSR by Butt Kicker driver. And Sean, it was an interesting first into the race with plenty of strategy games going on with the fuel. We will give it another go. Sean Campbell, do you have a copy with us in the RaceSpotTV booth? We will try again in a couple of moments' time. Instead, we go to the 3rd step of the podium and we join Matt Taylor. Matt, a good day for MadWorks Motorsports with a double podium. And for you, 3rd, recap that day in the first stint and all the fuel-saving games.
Yeah, I really struggled with pure pace probably up until just before the event tonight. So I was just happy to kind of be up there and was satisfied with running out front. And what I wanted to do was pit that lap early, hopefully take a little bit more fuel, and then kind of come out at the tail end of the draft, and just barely missed catching the draft. And Michael was able to, he went a little lighter, was able to beat us out, and was able to pull Sean away, unfortunately. But after the last couple of weeks, the way things have gone across all the series, it was just nice to have a good run.
In terms of this car and track combo as well, just how difficult was it with some of the curbs being so high and you wanting to use them, the car maybe not always being the most stable over them?
Yeah, to really get good pace out of it, you needed to hammer those curbs in certain places, and just missing it here, there, and you're spinning or you're in the wall. So and on top of that, then there's kind of a draft lock thing going on too. So you're really balancing how much risk do you want to take and how much benefit does it actually give you.
So still 3 rounds of the championship left, and there's an outside chance, of course, with double points that you're still in the championship mix. What's the plan for the rest of the year? Because I have to assume it's just maximum attack.
Yeah, I think eyes have turned towards the team championship. And, I think at this point, whatever happens in the Drivers' Championship happens, but we've really, I think as a team, started to focus in on that. And as a team, we've had a couple of bad races, so it's a decent recovery drive, and we just need to build off of this.
Well, we'll go from one MadWorks Motorsports driver to another. Matt Taylor finishes 3rd behind his teammate Michael O'Brien. And Michael, I mean, another fun fight. And while, yes, you finished this one in 2nd, you finished behind Sean Campbell, who has won 4 in a row. You very much took the fight to him today, though.
We tried. Man, he's so fast. Yeah, I had a good quali and everything, and my plan was to just try and back Sean into the other guys, but I missed a gear coming out of the hairpin, and that kind of screwed that up a bit.
In terms of the 2nd stint of the race, I wanted to ask after the first pit stop, was there ever a thought in your mind to try and do what you did in the first stint and drop behind Sean and try and save a little bit of fuel? Because it seemed like that was the main thought for so many through the course of those first couple of stints.
So my main thought was I wanted to short fill and get out of Sean's draft, get Sean out of my draft, but I didn't short fill enough, and he was able to just sit there and save fuel. So I backed the pace way off in that second stint, and because I knew Sean would be happy to just sit there and save fuel, but I didn't realize he'd filled in that first stop.
Gotcha. In terms of qualifying, I have to ask, what have you found that seems to make you so fast on these road courses, Michael, because you're consistently at the front now here in 2022?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Sean coming in has definitely helped, just to raise the bar and force us all to sort of step it up a bit. Whatever, just all the little things, just focusing on, look at where I am, basically.
Michael O'Brien finished this one in second. Congratulations. It was a good day for Madworks Motorsports, of course, with that focus going to the team championship. We'll try this one again. Third time's the charm. Sean, do you have a copy?
I think I do now.
Well, this time, at least it went a little better than yesterday. You were able to get the right car, and you were up at the front through the course of this one. I've got to ask, fighting for second in that first stint, how focused were you on trying to save fuel but maintaining track position?
A lot. I really wanted to stay second up until right at the right before the pit stops, because you want to be in front when you're going into the pits so that you don't have to potentially wait behind him. But I was getting a little nervous from David from behind. He looked like he was trying to get second too.
4 wins in a row. You've now set Lionheart Retro Series history, but of course we go back oval racing next time. But we do go to an oval which, like we were discussing before, it's, I think, quite welcoming to a road course driver. How much experience do you have at the Worldwide Technology Raceway, and how much are you going to be leaning on your teammates to get up to speed?
Well, I'm pretty sure in my entire life I have never driven Gateway ever.
Do you own the track?
No. If it wasn't in NASCAR 2003, then I haven't driven it.
Okay. So we'll start by buying the track, and then we'll go from there. I mean, I got to ask you about next year now, Sean. Regardless of the end of this season and the run that you'll have, what's your thoughts about coming and competing? Because you have very much, I think, brought a level of excitement to the front of the field that has been missing since Sage Karam left last year.
I mean, absolutely, right? These cars are too much fun to not race if given the opportunity. A dubious sponsor for the official sessions right there on Sunday, but they are a lot of fun. If you have time, do drive it.
Well, hopefully we see more of you next year. Congratulations, Sean, and of course, 7 days from today, you'll look to tie Adam Blocker's record of 5 wins in a row in a Lionheart competition.
All right.
Sean Campbell, always calm, cool, collected, and ready to go. Let's talk about what's up next, though. It is a trip to the track that Sean Campbell is yet to buy here on iRacing, DJ. It's the egg-shaped oval that will confuse and delight in equal measures as we head to the shadow of the Gateway Arch.
Yeah, it certainly will, Arjuna, and I will tell you, it is 2 different ends of that track coming down into turn 1 and 2. It is very, very tricky, super high banked, but very, very narrow. You've really got to get onto the binders just right to get that right, and then coming down through 3 and 4, that's relatively flat out, and watch for a lot of drivers trying to set up an overtake through those corners.
But like I was saying, I do think this is a track, just like Indianapolis is in many ways, that will help someone like Sean get up to speed in a way that maybe he would not be able to do at a more traditional, difficult oval. We saw it with Romain Grosjean last year in 2021 when he had his first experience of the oval, DJ, and he took to it like a duck to water, if we're being completely fair.
Yeah, he certainly did. And I think for guys like Campbell, that could be a good one to kind of get that feel, that rhythm to Motegi and Gateway. You both got to use the binders a little bit to get things right, so that could come to play them out just a little bit more. I'm going to be very interested, though, when we get to Fontana, just how that's going to play out for him.
Let's be honest, you and myself are both looking forward to mostly, I think, the trip to Road America. That will be November 10th, but of course, back-to-back races as we get nearer and nearer to the end of the championship. We head to the Worldwide Technology Raceway on October 27th. It is time to say goodbye, but before we do that, we take the time to thank those that make this possible, starting with the title sponsor of your 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit nextlevelracing.com. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloudline of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com.
We'd also like to thank Butt Kicker. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt Kicker haptic hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine redline. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before.
Moser Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, Moser Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane.
And finally, thanks to Gomez Sim Industries. Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls, precision-built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com.
And it's not just them, but so many more that make this possible. To learn about the partners of the Lionheart Racing Series or the 3 competitions the sanctioning body puts on, whether you're a fan of the Dallara IR18 or DW12 or this Lotus 79, head to LionheartRacingSeries.com. It's another doubleheader week of Lionheart competition coming your way next week as the Lionheart Speedway Series and Retro Series continue their run to their championship finales. First, the Lionheart Speedway Series heads to Kansas for the Next Level Racing 200. Catch it live on October 24th, live and exclusively on RaceSpotTV and rebroadcast on ESTV. The Lionheart Retro Series goes to the Worldwide Technology Raceway for the Butt Kicker 150 at Gateway, presented by JurasCandy.com 7 days from today on October 27th. It will be Sean Campbell looking to make history with 5 wins in a row, but the rest of the field will be looking to spoil the party as we get closer and closer to crowning our champion. For now, though, it is time to bid you farewell. For the team at RaceSpotTV, for DJ Clark, alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for your company as we wind ourselves closer to the double point showdown in Fontana for the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. Just 3 races are left, and we've got a showdown. And while Mike Razmas is looking to coronate himself the champion, the focus is on the history maker in Sean Campbell. We'll see you next time. For now, so long and goodbye.